the unraveling of the New York Jets. The comments by Robert Saleh yesterday, to me, were the first time there was really a divide between the head coach and the general manager, and maybe the general manager and owner as well, when Saleh talked about how he had his thoughts on the draft day process of drafting Zach Wilson, and he'll leave that between him and Joe. He was insinuating that maybe he wasn't on board with the Zach Wilson plan. Obviously, now Wilson is benched. Saleh speaking out a little bit. This is the beginning of the unraveling of the New York Jets.
I'm very surprised that this has not gotten more traction. Like, to me, you can see this a mile away. I mean, you could just start to plot this out, and we'd all probably nail it. This does seem like the end for Saleh. Robert Saleh right now is saying, listen, I'm getting separation for whatever Joe Douglas thought about the quarterback situation. Don't include me in it. And by the way, yesterday was not the first time he did that, because I guess a week or two ago when he was on a radio show, he said, I'm going to plead the fifth pertaining to the quarterback spot. So that was the first visible sign, like, well, he doesn't really want to say what's in his heart. Okay. Doesn't want to throw him under the bus. Doesn't want to get too deep in the weeds of the organization's thinking. And then yesterday, Robert Saleh said, hey, you know what? Basically, I don't want this guy. I did not want him. And there's a big problem. Now, it's not a problem if you think that Robert Saleh should be removed of his duties as head coach of the Jets. It's not a problem, because it's going to probably go in this direction. If the Jets don't stabilize this, and if they get rolled on Friday, the only game, and the Dolphins smoke them, and they might, because now the defense is starting to show signs of not really caring as much. Missed tackles, missed assignments, stupid penalties. So if the defense ever cracks, the Jets are going to absolutely get bludgeoned by a lot of teams the rest of the way. That's the only thing that's good about the team. And if that happens, then Saleh's gone. Because think about this. I didn't think this was possible. Now, I've been on the record, with all due respect, I do like Robert as a man, a lot as a human being. I don't think he's the right coach for the city, for this team, for this situation. I don't. I've said that before. When he said what he said yesterday, that is the first visible fracture between a union that has always been presented as very solidified and very much in lockstep. Not anymore. And if they don't play well, Joe Douglas is going to get rid of them.
You know what, though? I actually respect that Saleh stood up for himself, finally, because we all knew he didn't want any part of Zach Wilson. He was thrown to the wolves from year one, week one. He was overmatched to begin with, Zach Wilson. And Saleh, being a defensive guy, I'm sure he would have preferred a veteran quarterback back there. But Saleh just took it, didn't say anything. Yep. Year two, took it, didn't say anything. The majority of this year, took it, didn't say anything. Guess what? His name is under fire this year. And it's because he's losing, because he's been attached to Zach Wilson since day one. So I actually respect that Saleh came out and said, you know what? He insinuated, he didn't even say it, but he insinuated like, hey, my defense is doing its job. You didn't give me a quarterback that I could function with. You tried with Rodgers. He got hurt, and you're going to blame me? So I actually respect Robert Saleh for it, and I'll take it a step further. This mess is on Joe Douglas. It is not Robert Saleh. Whether or not you or I think Saleh's the head coach or could be a head coach, and I don't think he is, because I want an offensive guy. Joe Douglas is the one who failed his quarterback, failed the head coach, failed the organization.
The only thing that I would push back on, and I do respect Saleh saying it, but this should have been handled differently a while ago. So, to me, by him implying what he implied yesterday, he's trying to get a little separation. It's his record, self-preservation. The gloves are off, and the Jets are drowning, and Saleh's got to do what he's got to do to maintain this appeal throughout the league. And to, whatever equity he has remaining with the fan base, he's not a dummy. This is a bit of a PR play, which I get. But when that happens in this town, it's over. It very rarely works out. But I think I would respect it more. I can't respect it as much as you do, only for this. Because Saleh, to me, was too inconsistent in his dealings with the quarterback leading up to this point. If he was a little bit more direct and a little bit more, I think, transparent in his assessment of the way Zach Wilson played up until this point, and now he's like, listen, I basically, without saying it, I don't want the kid anyway. Is the general manager, Joe Douglas, not me. I was all right. I got you. Really, so for the last year and a half or so, you've been very very direct and very clear that this young man just ain't cutting it. But what he did was he covered up for him, and he basically lied to us, and he basically said he was doing things that he wasn't necessarily doing. We weren't dumb enough to fully take the cheese fully, but it's just now it's almost like an act of desperation.
Right. Well, he knows it's over for him.
Which I get because, you got to come out swinging when things are getting a little tight. But he was not honest and transparent throughout, so I can't fully respect this pushback. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
he's culpable.
He also, look, I respect that he knows he's going down. He's going to at least go down swinging.
Well, yeah. Yeah, now he is, though.
Well, all right, but fine. I mean, that's how, look, if you know that the end of the, you're getting blamed for something, you're like, well, I didn't want this guy anyway. You're shoving him down my throat. I try to be nice and say, you know what, it's not all on him. He's getting better. He's learning. We're trying to nurture Zach and all that. But the reality is, BT, Robert Saleh was given a unique opportunity to become a head coach in the NFL. His job depended on Zach Wilson being good or not. That's a problem. Like, if you were thrown into a situation for your career, survival, like, you're lucky you landed with a good partner.
Well, I mean, listen, still remains to be seen here. You pulled me down.
You know what I mean? Like,
all these controversies that Sal's starting.
Exactly right. BT's like, I haven't seen hate like this ever. I'm like, welcome to the big show, buddy.
Yeah.
No. But you're dependent.
I know what you mean.
He's done a great job with his defense. That's his strength, right?
Yep.
So he's maximized what he could do with his strengths. They knew what they were getting when they hired him as a defensive guy. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve blame because he certainly does, and he hasn't been enough of a head coach in many different ways. However, he is attached at the hip.
I know.
To Zach Wilson.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways it's unfair. And listen, it's no different than the NBA coach who gets a train wreck of a roster and he goes 23 and whatever, and then maybe he gets a second year and they're 9-27 and he gets whacked and he never gets a chance again. I understand. Like, you have players, you generally win. Look at all the greatest coaches. Belichick with Brady, Belichick without. Pat Riley had a megastar, a galaxy of stars. So did Lombardi, so did Parcells with LT and Banks and everybody else that they had on the defensive side. So you need players. I understand that. But here's you use an interesting example. This is my problem with Saleh. Like the radio thing, right? So if I was paired with someone, we'll use each other, right?
Fine, yeah.
Thankfully, I was doing well without you. But I mean, like if my career, and listen, in a lot of ways it does, because if you and I drown, then it's going to be a problem for both of us because it's going to affect what we make and how long we're employed and all those things. But you said if I was paired with somebody and it determined the outcome of my career, if it wasn't going well, we would have very serious heart-to-heart discussions off the air, and I would try to fix it, and I know that you would do the same. I just feel like Saleh was too accepting.
Also,
publicly, of Wilson's horrendous play at times.
Also, to be fair,
that always bothered me.
Also, to be fair, and if we were going to use this example here, right, an analogy with us, you could also be judged individually.
That's true.
And so could they. And if you look at what Saleh has done, he himself hasn't been good enough overall. Like it's not like you say this guy's the guy, but the quarterback ain't it. We look at Saleh and also say, he ain't it. But a big part of that is the quarterback and also his inability to develop that quarterback.
That's a good point. And to be fair, now listen, before we get these calls, I don't know, as Robert Saleh gets a little separation from his general manager, which is always a fatal move. It's not going to just save this recording. This is not going to end well for Robert Saleh. Whether or not it ends well for Douglas, we'll see. But I think that when you look at the job that Robert Saleh has done or not done, independent of that, pushing back on Wilson in a roundabout way, I don't know what his plan was. Did he want to keep Sam Darnold and then just, have all these teams move up and get, 5 or 6 picks and build out the roster that way?
Or sit Zach Wilson first year? I don't know.
True, that's true. Or maybe he liked Zach, but maybe sit him. Did he want Justin Fields? So I don't, whatever he's implying, that doesn't mean that his option was going to be good. It just means He didn't want Zach, and if I'm a general manager, you're not going to be happy with that. And when you're not happy, heads roll.
BT and Sal on the Fan, our friends at Town Fair Tire. Remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Tino is calling from Staten Island. What's up, Tino?
Hey, bud.
Hey, what's up, boys?
Tino.
Guys, it's Sal. You know, I don't always agree with you. We go back and forth. I actually do agree with you this time. This falls strictly on Joe Douglas. He has been, he made some good hits, but what's come drafts. But when you miss out on the second pick of the draft, and you constantly bring this kid out, now it's been 3 years now with this slop of football that we've been watching as Jet fans, and not to bring a competent backup. There was plenty of opportunities to get one. It comes to a point where Woody Johnson's got to step in and say, guys, I mean, come on, what are we doing as a franchise here? Enough is enough, dude. We can't sit there every Sunday and watch a team that cannot score, where guys are people are putting up 30, 40 points a game, and we can't score a touchdown. I mean, it's embarrassing. It really is a Jet fan. I'm like BT. I was with the Unkillable. I love BT. BT, I've been following you forever. But enough is enough as a franchise, dude. When are we going to wake up? We need to do something as a franchise. It's embarrassing. It really is. And you're going to bring in a Tim Boyle? Out of all the guys that we are available, Tim Boyle is the best option to play quarterback for the Jets? Come on, guys. Enough is enough already.
I'm with you, Tino, and thanks you for the
Steve.
call. I mean, here's the problem. You don't want to continue to have the carousel of general managers, of head coaches. It's so unhealthy.
Yep.
It's a big part of why the Jets are where they are. But this is not going to end well. We're entering the beginning of the end here. The dysfunction. It's already the end of Zach Wilson. We've made the decision. He's toast as a Jet. It's never going to happen for him.
Well, we knew he wasn't going to start. We didn't know they were going to banish him to third when we were on the air yesterday.
Right.
We didn't find out. So
It's over.
Yeah, you're right. Boomer said they should probably waive him. And honestly, when you're the third quarterback, at this point, they might.
Well, what they're going to do, I would assume, I don't know this, what they're going to do is keep him on the roster. Saleh said they'll address it in the offseason. Maybe they look to see if somebody's going to trade for him. And by the way, if I'm a team out there who's quarterback needy, I am going to trade for him. I'll give up a 7th-round pick for him.
Yep.
You're getting great value there and potential. Even if it doesn't work out, big deal. You give up a 7th-round pick for a guy who was number 2 overall a few years ago.
I would do it as well. If I'm the Giants, I would do it.
That's what I mean. Any team that is quarterback needy, and look around at the quarterback play, even if it's just as a backup, it's just not here. It's not going to happen with Zach Wilson with the Jets. So they're not just going to cut him and give up something that they could potentially get anything back for. But it's over for Zach Wilson and the New York Jets. And the next step is going to be it's over for Robert Saleh and the New York Jets. And then it's going to be what is Joe Douglas's future and how does Woody weigh Aaron Rodgers' thoughts on this whole thing?
See, this is why the Jets are an absolute mess because it's fairly like you could make the take Rodgers out of the equation for a moment. Just take him out. They never got him. The Jets are in this predicament. They entered the season with Zach Wilson, number 1. I don't know. Jacoby Brissett, number 2.
Right.
And Brissett played, but he didn't play well, so they're still in the same spot, which probably will be out of the playoffs, right? Are you bringing back Joe Douglas? Probably not. Are you bringing back Robert Saleh? No, you're not. What complicates this is the presence of Aaron Rodgers, which is incredibly ironic because he was supposed to solve everything here. So I don't know how Woody's going to side. I don't know.
But what do you think? Think about what we know about Woody.
Well, I don't know. Listen, what we know about Woody is that he is a stargazer. So no, he's not getting rid of Rodgers. I don't mean that.
100%.
Which means he'll probably, when this goes, into the deep end here, which you can see it coming a mile away,
Right.
the Jets just gave us a roadmap for their offseason. And that roadmap became very clear when Robert Saleh, who was a smart man, purposely stepped to a podium yesterday and said, whatever that guy wanted, the GM, I didn't want. So stop blaming me.
He knows.
He's too classy to say it any other way, but he's like, it's that guy's fault.
And he knows what that means.
Which means it's over for Robert Saleh. So I don't know if Woody would get rid of Joe and Saleh, elevate Hackett, which would drive me nuts, but you got to play this out. He's not getting rid of Rodgers. And if he's not getting rid of Rodgers,
that means
he's not getting rid of Hackett.
Correct.
So the only question is, does he get rid of Saleh and Joe or just Saleh? I don't know.
And if I had to bet on it, I would say just Saleh. And I think he's going to keep Joe Douglas,
Yeah.
and I think he's going to keep Aaron Rodgers, and Hackett will be elevated to be the head coach. Because, BT, the other part of it, dude, we talked about this yesterday. You could see this coming
I'm okay
a mile
to keep
away.
it Joe, but if Hackett's the head coach, I'm not watching the Jets
But
next
what
year.
head coach would you possibly get that's going to come into this situation?
I don't know.
With an offensive coordinator and a quarterback already in place?
I don't know. That's a great question, but it can't be Hackett.
For 1 year.
It can't be Hackett, Sal.
This is a total rebuild at the head coach quarterback position, except that they got a 40-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles with his offensive coordinator intact.
And a defense that's ready to win a Super Bowl now.
I don't know what coach out there is going to be like, you know what? That seems like a good spot for me to go in. They're going to probably elevate Hackett because I would assume Rodgers has Woody's ear, and that's what Rodgers would want. Greg is calling from Port Jeff. What's up, Greg?
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
How are you?
Hey, Greg. How are you, buddy?
Good. Just what you guys were just talking about. Joe Douglas is coming back next year because not even the coach. What coach wants to step into this mess next year? What GM wants to step into this next year if they know he's not going to have any stamp on this team moving forward, knowing he's going to have Rodgers, which means he's going to have Hackett. So I think either way, Joe Douglas is back next year. I don't think he deserves to be back. I think ultimately he is the problem and has been the problem, and I understand everybody gives him these passes for some of these draft picks, but even going back to that draft pick where they got Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson, all of these guys, Sauce Gardner, those picks that they had, those were the best available players by a long shot at those spots. So it's not like he reached and got a guy that maybe he developed.
No, but hold on, Greg, hold on a second. I listen, I'm not sitting here saying I'm Mel Kiper telling you where the average draft position should have been. That's unfair, though. You draft a guy, you get credit, or you get crushed. You pass over a guy, you get credit, or you get crushed. You can't make it that that's unfair.
So, but it was that. You think that's enough to say that one draft makes up for all of his misses?
Probably not.
On pretty much
Probably not. I don't know. No? Probably not. That's a good question. And that's something that Sal and I have wrestled with over the course of this year, and even me and Teague before that. Because he's done some really good things, does it offset or extend, or should it, I think is the better, should it extend the window of employment despite all the massive misses and gaffes?
And it also shouldn't be, he's way better than the previous guys that we've had here. And see, in my gut, I think Joe Douglas is good at his job.
I do too.
And I like his demeanor. I think he's got a good attitude here in New York. He's not overmatched by the media or the pressure or the ineptitude and history of the Jets organization. I like Joe Douglas, so I want to believe that he could be the guy to get this thing going. However, he made a colossal mistake in hiring Robert Saleh, drafting Zach Wilson, and putting those two together for 3 straight years, really without, again, I know the Greg Knapp thing was unfortunate, but really there was no... The plan should be get a veteran quarterback, have the young kid who's clearly overmatched sit and learn for a year. It took him 2 years to figure that out. That was supposed to happen this year.
Yep.
Like, most guys don't get that opportunity to figure out a mistake 2 years later, then have it go sideways because the quarterback you brought in got hurt. The kid you have to throw that you drafted in year 3 still overmatched to a large extent.
Yep.
And by the way, the head coach in over his head as far as the offense goes.
It's a lot to overcome. It's a lot to overcome to maintain employment, but he is a unique figure. I do give you that, but this, I'm telling you, I could not believe how little play this got. This is the start of the end.
The unraveling.
We saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
Saleh gave it to us.
The unraveling. And it's going to, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
100%.
Because Rodgers and Hackett aren't going anywhere. You better hope that defense remains the same and Rodgers comes back healthy and is vintage.